What's up, Ramblers? Your favorite CEO is back. And before we begin today's podcast, make sure you hit the subscribe button to never miss an episode. And follow Assistance HQ and Offsource HQ across all platforms to stay up to date on the latest content, updates, and more. And remember, if you need a virtual assistant, visit us at offsource.tech. Now, before we begin, a word from our sponsor. Perfect. That's good. All right. Hey guys, welcome back to another wonderful episode of The Ramblings. I'm your host, Angelo Roberts, and I have today with us Royal Banks. He is a DNA founder. I don't even really know how to describe it, like an ancestry or 23andMe kind of thing where they take your DNA, they test it. I'm gonna let him explain it, but introduce yourself today, Mr. Banks. How you doing?
Yeah. Angelo, thank you for having me on, man. My name is Royal Banks. I'm the owner of Assurance DNA, which is a paternity and relationship testing service. So we find out who the dad is. That's what we do. 23andMe is more so, hey, here's your lineage and here who might be your cousin out or randomly somewhere in the world. We find out who the father is. That's what we do. Yeah, absolutely.
That's absolutely like amazing, like a Maury kind of situation.
Yep.
That's okay, and I like last name Banks, Bel Air Rock, and I like that right now. Whole clear vibe.
I just I just had it in the closet, man. I just had to pull the shirt out the closet.
Thank you for joining us today. It's super glad to have you. We love just talking with other founders and things of that nature. So, how does one get into paternity testing, and why did you choose paternity testing?
Yeah, absolutely, man. So my backstory is this, and this is why generational wealth comes in different forms in a way. Okay, it can be actual wealth, it can be information. So my mom is not yet, at least she's not wealthy yet, but she will be. She has owned a paternity testing business for the past 20 years. She started it after her brother went through a paternity testing situation 2002, well before any type of this information was on the internet or anything like that.
Right.
And so I saw her build her business up over the past literally 20 years. I'm 31 years old. She started it about the time I was 11, and I saw her go through the ups and downs of building this business. So my wife and I, about September 2020, we were looking at buying another mobile home because we own a mobile home in Fayetteville, North Carolina. And we were in Virginia, and the prices that people were wanting for these mobile homes were so like, why do you why do you want $60,000 for a mobile home in a park? Like, no, because, we're trying to buy them and rent them out, right? Or flip them. And so we had one that was just taking entirely too long. It was the height of COVID. Title DMV was closed. You couldn't do nothing. It was just craziness going on. I was like, all right. I was like, you know what? Let's take this money that we have earmarked for this mobile home deal. I was like, you know what? Let's start our own paternity testing business. Like, I've been helping my mom sort of for the past few years with setting up her website, her Google page, and doing this and that. And I want to have our own. Like, let's see how far this can go. And I put it on the whiteboard, and she was like, let's get it. Like, she's been supportive literally from day one. Like, let's do this. Let's make it happen. Actually, she told me, Roll, I told you about a year and a half ago to start a DNA testing company, but you didn't want to do it. But timing is everything, man. Timing is everything. So yeah, here we are 17 months later, April 2022. So, hey.
Wow, that is like a really good story. Now, we've had other founders up here who had supportive spouses and some who haven't. I kind of want you to talk a little bit about how having a supportive spouse really changed the game for founders and entrepreneurs, on both sides, whether male or female, whatever, that having a supportive spouse, I think, changes it. What are your thoughts on that?
Oh, man, I literally could not operate this business without her. Like, I couldn't, or I would, if I were not married or if I did not have a supportive spouse, I would have had to hire a VA a long time ago to handle a lot of this stuff. So I'm, background on me, I'm full-time military. I'm an active duty military officer. That's what I do during the day. I don't do
really?
Yeah, I'm an Army officer full-time. That's my career. Okay. So I can't, the way this business operates is we get calls. That's how leads come in. It's calls. People don't just purchase paternity testing services over the internet, paying between $300 and $1,700 for a paternity. They don't do that. Okay. Mm-hmm. So they call, they want to call because they want to talk to somebody. Well, guess what? If I'm at work and I'm in the military, my business phone, I can't answer my calls all day long. I can't because they come in randomly. So guess what my wife does? She answers the calls for me. So started in December 2020, I was kind of operating it by myself, essentially from December 2020 until August 2021. She had not moved in with me yet. She was finishing up her master's degree in Atlanta. From December 2020 to August 2021, I made a total of about $3,000 in the DNA testing business. Total revenue, gross, all right, sales. When she moved in with me and I was like, hey, can you answer the phones? Can you handle invoicing and payments? All that stuff. Here's the script. Here's how you do it. And she added her own twist. From September 2021 to December 2021, we made $17,000.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That's a huge jump.
Massive jump. And it's literally because the support of my wife. Like literally the support. Like she is a stay-at-home wife at the moment. Okay. So she can answer phones all day. Like we have sales. I don't know. We made $1,300 this week just on her answering the phone and doing the invoices and setting up and going to do paternity test appointments. She's done a paternity test appointment this week. I could not have done that because I am full time. And then we just take that money and reinvest it in the business, recycle it, reinvest it into advertising and marketing. So yeah, could not happen without her, man. Like could not happen without her.
Oh my God. I love hearing stories like that. Like seeing people really work together and that change, it happened and you could physically see and feel that kind of change. Now, as we move towards into like being a founder, because you talked about real estate a little bit and everything. So what is your background in terms of being like a military person, but wanting to create generational wealth? Was it something that kind of came like early in life or was it something like that was a little bit later on?
Yeah, the term generational wealth came a little bit later when I was more so like when I deployed to Iraq. And I started learning about bigger pockets and real estate investing and this and that. That's when but I was always entrepreneurial as a kid, 10 years old, 11 years old, man, I was mowing lawns in the neighborhood, making my own money. You know what I'm saying? Like I've always been, even in college, Tuskegee, man, I was selling, they called me the snack man at Tuskegee. Anybody from Tuskegee, if anybody from Tuskegee is listening to this podcast that went to Tuskegee from 2010 to 2013, knows exactly what I'm talking about, man. Like I was the snack man. Like I would be off campus whipping up with my homeboy, whipping up hot dogs, hamburgers with the special sauce and all that stuff. Snacks. We had Square before Square was a thing. Like when you just had put the little thing in the phone and swipe the cards. Reinvested, bought a heat bag, so our snacks will stay hot. We develop relationships so we can go in the girls' dorms and stuff like that. Like, and just we sold every single night. And I never had a job in college, man. I was always just entrepreneurial. And people know who I am, man. The snack man. I'm a stuff of legend over there at Tuskegee. So always been entrepreneurial, but the generational wealth kind of thing. And okay, let's build something came more so when I deployed to Iraq, 2016, 2017 timeframe.
Wow, that's really good because I would consider myself like a purebred entrepreneur as well. Like I was doing everything. In college, I started doing like a sneaker customization business. So I tried doing that with my brother, a bunch of different things. So I definitely understand that. Now, you say you're military full time, but you said you did office stuff. Like, talk to me a little bit about your military career. Why did you choose the military? Like, do you come from a military family?
No, I don't. I always wanted to be in the military, man. Like as a kid, I'd see the movies and stuff and just I love the poise of the military back then. Drill and ceremony and all that stuff. I just loved the military. And I went to Tuskegee, commissioned as an officer. So I'm right now I'm what you call a captain in the Army. I'm an Army captain. And the dope thing about the military, my career in the military is actually what is called a public affairs officer. So we are equivalent to, I guess, civilian public relations. And we help tell the Army story, and there's social media involved and essentially communications. So that's why like I love speaking and interviewing and podcasting and stuff like that, because that's also a natural trait. But the military, the dope thing about the military is that it has not only provided me the opportunity to travel and meet new people and learn new skills, but it's given me the stability to basically say, okay, I'm going to go ahead. I know I'm getting paid on the 1st and 15th, no matter what. So I'm going to go ahead and set this business up on the side here. And as long as I have systems to outsource, some of these processes, I'm good to go, and I can still work my military job. I don't have to spend the money on myself from the business. It all gets reinvested. I don't have to live off of that at all. So that's why this business will be incredibly valuable in the next few years.
Real quick, I don't mean to cut you off. I love cutting people off, but I don't mean to cut people off.
You're good.
That is super important, because one of the things I did was started, a little bit differently. I started doing some stuff with my mom where she has like something I kind of started working for her to keep so I don't have to draw money from the business and stuff.
Yeah.
Talk to me about balancing that. I want you to drive home that point of having like that stable income, especially when you're starting up, because a lot of times, like me, I was young enough, I was able to kind of jump in, job, all that kind of stuff, just jump right in. But when people have a lot more responsibilities, they have a lot more expectations on their shoulders and things like that. Talk to me about balancing, but two, the importance of having that 1st and 15th income so you don't have to take from your business.
Yeah, that balance is important, man. It just depends. I would say it depends on your level of risk that you want to take. I can accept a higher level of risk than most people. That is why I am essentially an entrepreneur, but not so high to where I'm going to get my house foreclosed on. Like, I have a mortgage at the moment. I am the one supporting the household. Hey, I can't just solely do because things with entrepreneurship, man, it goes up and down. The shit ain't always pretty. You know what I'm saying? Like January, it was looking rough for us. I was like, yo, what is going on? December, we made 10 grand in sales. You know what I'm saying? January, we made 2. Like, it's real.
Wow.
Like, this is transparency. Like, it's real. You know what I'm saying? And then, but from there, it's been up since then. But it's like, dude, can you stomach that? Like, do you have the reserves for both your business and for your personal life to stomach something like that? If you don't, then that 1st and 15th is beautiful, man. Like I said, I pay all the bills and live and get groceries with the 1st and 15th. And look, man, it's inflation out here. It's crazy right now. Like, gas prices are high as hell. I'm sorry for cursing, but
it's fine.
Groceries are crazy. I filled up a cart of groceries the other day. It was $574. I was like, bro, what is going on? Like, and if your business only made netted you $1,000 for the month, you gonna be hungry. Okay, so it's like I'm gonna keep the 9 to 5 until my business essentially is like doing 5 times what I would make from my job in net, not in sales, but net after everything. Then we'll go from there. You know what I'm saying? Once I'm making $30,000-$40,000 a month after expenses, then we'll reassess that.
Okay, that's a really high number to go for, but I kind of want to transition a little bit, get into some of the technical things, right?
Yeah, sure.
So you started with DNA testing. What are you doing like in terms of marketing? What's like overhead look like in terms of like, do you guys have to purchase like the DNA testing and things of that nature? Do you just send it off to like an office? What's the interworks look like?
Yeah, so starting off, when you start a DNA testing company, you're essentially a middleman. You're a coordinator essentially. So you don't own the lab. You don't do any of that stuff. There's a few labs that you can partner with where they test the actual samples, for paternity testing. There is no upfront cost for supplies. They will send you the supplies, the testing kits, for free up front, and they charge you on the back end after you do the test and send it in. That's when they charge you. So you do the swabs, you send it in, they say, okay, yep, this test kit is scanned to Assurance DNA, or this case number is signed to Assurance DNA. This is for a motherless paternity test. Okay, we're going to go ahead and charge the Assurance DNA account $126. And that's so the startup cost is minimal. Essentially, is getting your incorporating your business, getting a very simple website built up that it don't take $10,000 to do that. Okay, getting a separate business line, which you can do with free apps these days. Google Voice or something like that. And that's essentially it to get you going. Now marketing. after testing fees is your second biggest expense, or it might be your first, depending on how you're trying to scale. So, for example, for this quarter, for January through March 31st of 2022, I've spent about $2,800 in marketing, digital marketing, total, which brought us about $17,000 in sales. Okay, so it's marketing is going to be an expense. That's something. I mean, I have some of my students who haven't really made ads. But when I say students, by the way, Paternity University, that's the course that I have. I have students who haven't even had ads yet, and they've brought in customers. It just depends on your demand. But if you want to get out in front of people, the people that you want to be clients, then you may have to do some ads to supercharge it, and that will be another expense. But did I answer your question? I think it did.
Yeah, I definitely think it does. Now, you just said that you do like a paternity like class, so like you're teaching other people how to start their own DNA paternity testing business. What does that like look like? How did you get into coaching? Because I had thought about kind of doing courses, but I have had like this weird feeling of it because it's just coaching and courses and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Where did you feel comfortable and ready enough to say, you know what, I think I'm ready enough to show someone else how to get this thing started?
Yeah, what's funny, man? I think you interact with these folks on Twitter. I'm heavy on Twitter. So Annalisa.
Snap. First name I know, yeah.
Yeah, Andre Hatchett, Annalisa, a couple of other folks. So I went to a Black Wealth Renaissance networking event in Dallas last July, which was like key. Oh my God, that was critical, man, to networking. We can talk about that in a minute. But so I'm there, and I have assurance. I have my DNA testing company, right? I tweet about it every once in a while. Hey, yeah, I do this, and I'm there, and they meet me, and Annalisa. I think Annalisa was the first person she physically came to me. She was like, or I came to her. I was like, hey, I'm Roll. I'm going to introduce myself. She's like, oh, okay, cool. Oh, you're the paternity testing guy. I'm like, yeah. And she was like, man, that could be a course. And I was like, I don't know. I don't think I'm ready yet. I'm not making $50,000 a month from this business yet. I don't really feel right, creating a course and yada, yada, yada. And she was just like, all right, whenever you're ready, whatever, cool. You know what I'm saying? And so about maybe a month later, I tweeted just randomly one day. It wasn't for any purpose of trying to create a course, but I was just like, hey, did y'all know that if you're a DNA testing collector, which means me as an agency owner, as a coordinator, if I have a test in California somewhere, I can reach out to people in a network to collect DNA samples for me. I don't have to fly to California to swab somebody's mouth for 15 minutes and fly back. It's a whole network of people, right? So did you know as a collector, you can make between $75 and about $150 or so for doing a DNA collection, and it'll take about 15 minutes. Just tweeted it. That's it. And people were like, how do I do that? Oh my God, do you have a course? Do you have a book? I was like, whoa, oh my God. Like, I was not expecting that type of response. And I was like, but the thing is though, reeling it back a little bit, I always love teaching, man. Like, I like teaching people information that I know. And so I was like, damn, that's crazy. The demand is there. That let me know the demand was there. So what I did over the next week, I just wrote an ebook on how to become a mobile DNA collector, right? It's still on sale too. Like, hey, this is how you become a collector. All right. People bought that. Like, they spent like people, a couple $1,000s on that. I was like, oh my gosh, this is like, the demand is crazy. And long story short, another person hit me up on Twitter, or I responded to one of his tweets. He was like, hey, what are some felon-friendly businesses that I can start? And I was like, well, a DNA agency. It's relatively like, there's no like background checks or anything like that. Right. And I walked him through in the DMs how to start his own DNA. This is before the course, way before the course. I was like, hey, you do this, is what you say, dot. He started it and has been making money since. I think recently he just tweeted that now his DNA agency has its own 401k, to where him, he has his own 401k for his own business, him and his partner now. And that's what I'm saying. I'm like, oh, wow, that's dope. So I asked him, I was like, man, do you think this could be a course? Like, he was like, bro, yes. Because literally, and this is the summation of the statement, before Paternity University, there was no other course on the internet that taught you how to start your own paternity testing company. It did not exist. I created the very
Wow.
first one in the world. So my
In the
course
world.
in the world, like there is no course on how, like, here's how you start your own DNA testing agency.
Since then, have there been others that popped up?
No, not yet.
You really cornered you really cornered an entire market.
Corner the market. Yep. So
wow, that's really good.
And by students, I got students all over the US, man. San Diego, near Orlando, New Orleans, let's see, Los Angeles, DC, Baltimore, Tampa, like Delaware, absolutely crushing it in Delaware, man. I got students all over the place now that essentially they have their own businesses, and I gave them the framework and the blueprint of how to start it and how to run it initially. And they kind of, once they get their feel of their market, they're off to the races, man. They got it. Like, hey, I know my market. I know what people want. I know how to market to them. Boom, they're off to the races. And in the DNA testing world, these laboratories are never going to contact and be like, hey, Royal, you're doing too many paternity tests. What are you doing? You're taking over the market. Whoa, you're doing way too many paternity tests. And all these other people are doing way too many. No, because it makes them money too. So everybody's happy.
Wow. Okay. So I want to talk about a couple more technical things before I move into a couple fun stories.
Sure.
Networking. You had mentioned the networking. I am huge in networking. I don't know if you've ever seen some of my tweets. Literally every single client I have had to date from my VA company is all from networking. I actually joined something called Master Networks. I'm kind of part of BNI, a couple of other networking things like that. What was this Dallas networking thing that you talked about? And explain to me more about how that networking event kind of set off a lot for you.
Yeah, that was major, man. So Black Wealth Renaissance, those four gentlemen, they created a networking conference. It was a networking conference or a brunch, plus a live podcast session of Millionaire Mindsets with Xavier and Deanna, Black Wealth Renaissance, and Andre C. Hatchett. And Andre Hatchett hosted that with Annalisa. And it was a live podcast recording. It was really dope in Dallas. And so they held it. And, me being military, man, like military, you can't just up and go places, dude. You can't just be like, all right, boss, tomorrow I'm going to fly across the state to go here. No, you have to get permission and all this stuff. So I saw that. And they were like, yo, this is 3 weeks out, a month out. And I was like, I have to go to this because where I'm at in Texas, I'm in El Paso. Okay. El Paso is like way out. Yeah. Like you are in your own world, man, completely. The population is 90% Latino. And you're just, dude, as a Black man, like you don't really see too many of your other folk there, of your folk there. It just is what it is. That's the demographic. And I was like, yo, I gotta get to this networking event, dude. I gotta get around other entrepreneurs who are killing it. Cause I was just on my own little bubble. I'm like, I don't have nobody to talk to. Like, I can't, my wife is cool with it, but like, I want to like talk to people, man. You know what I'm saying? Like, and so I went, man. And it was major, man. I met some solid. Henry Washington is a real estate owner in Arkansas. Absolutely, just people, and just meeting people, man. Just being around other like-minded people who are either trying to rise up. They're at your level already, or they're above your level, and you can talk to all those folks. And yeah, man, meeting all these good people, man, just being around them, just talking and just like bouncing ideas and just, like I said, kicking it with a few of these folks, man, in person, because it's a little bit different when you're interacting on Twitter. That's cool. When you're talking to them in person, you get to see a man or a woman eye to eye and see if they stand on their square. You know what I'm saying? So it was incredibly necessary. I met some great contacts, and we're all in our own fields. And just to come back, to El Paso and then get back on Twitter, that's when the interaction a little bit different. I got some of these folks' phone numbers, man. I contact these folks. I text them and call them nowadays, man. It's not even just a Twitter thing anymore. So that was just necessary to show, here is what you're capable of, Royal. These other folks are killing it. And this is the game that you can do. You can corner your own market. And that's what I got from that.
I love that because that's one of the huge things I'm trying to do, especially being from like Connecticut and everything. It's very, very small bubble. We're like smashed between Boston and New York and things like that. So it's kind of hard to find that place where I would fit. So I definitely am going to have to go to that next event no matter what happens.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
kind of want to move into something a little bit more lighthearted. DNA paternity testing, I'm sure, can be a fishy kind of business.
Oh man. Yeah.
I want to hear a super crazy story that has happened during like during this time of DNA testing.
Yeah, I got two.
I don't care how explicit it is. My test might
No, you're good. You're good. I mean, it's not that. It's not okay. So yeah, I got three. so one was a lady. This is my first court admissible paternity, my first legal. Court admissible means you can take it to court, do child custody stuff, any type of legal proceedings, right? You can take the results and do anything with that. So she contacted me. I drove up, did the test, and she's, got the she's like, hey, look, this dude, this is my husband. I don't think it's my husband's child. All right. I ain't gonna lie. I got with a former lover, a few years back. Kind of up in the air. I'm like, all right, that's what I'm here for. I'm not here to judge. You know what I'm saying? That's literally what I'm here for. All right, cool. Got it. Swab. Sent it off to the lab. Lab gives the results. Kid is not the husband's, right? Kid's not the husband's. And she had to break it to him. And he basically she told me he went into this a deep spiral, right? Just sad. Okay. And so she contacted over the next like couple of days, she was hitting me up like, hey, do you think the results could be like false? And I'm like, no, I don't. No, we don't operate like that. Like, why would I do that? You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, it's my business. This is my reputation. So no. She was like, okay, all right, I know. I'm just kind of thinking about it. I was like, all right, no, ma'am, it's not. And then she was like, do you think like alcohol or like drinking could affect his DNA? Because I've heard that sometimes if you drink a lot, it could affect maybe your DNA or a DNA test or whatever. Because he was drinking a lot and this and that. And I was like, ma'am, alcohol does not affect your DNA. And she was like, okay, fine. I own up to it. I cheated and it is what it is. That was something. Another one was a guy contacted me and he only wanted a paternity test at his home. And so this is one of my maybe second or third paternity tests. I was eager and excited to finally get a paying client, right? After months of weeks of receiving calls of people just BSing. And he was like, I only want you to come to my home. I was like, okay, fine, So I go to his home and I pull up to it and it looks like the Scarface mansion, man. It was just creepy. Like, and this guy, he just, I knock at the door and he just comes and he just looks like he might have been in, I don't know, man. I don't know if you watch Ozark or anything like that. Have you ever watched Ozark?
My brother watches it. I have not had a chance to watch it yet.
He looked like one of the bad guys off of Ozark. I'll say that. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'll just say that. I'll keep it at that. Your listeners know exactly what I'm talking about. And so he's like, okay, you're doing my paternity test? I'm like, yes. I'm like, all right. He just has this creepy, empty mansion, just empty, just no warmth, no love, And he had a nanny I just had the child. And I'm just sitting there doing the test and he's just watching me. He's just like, just looking at me. And he's like, okay. I was like, sir, I have to have your ID. I have to take a picture of your ID. It's for, identification purposes for the laboratory. He was like, will my identification be made public? Because I cannot have that. And I was like, no, it won't be made public. It's all private. He was like, you would delete it off your phone or whatever, burn the image. And I was like, all right, I will. And I'm sitting there doing the test and he eventually he pulls a drink out. And he's like, would you like some liquid death? I was like, what? Yeah, he offered me this drink. It's a brand. It's a company called.
Right. I've heard. I'm familiar with it.
I never heard of it. I was like, what? And he was like, it's a drink, liquid death. And I was like, Okay, here's some water.
Only certain people drink liquid death.
Yeah, I was just like, all right, it was like, all right, cool, man. And then I think I made a mistake, and I teach this in the course. Like when you want to go ahead, there's envelope. There's a small envelope that you put the DNA swabs into. Okay, you want to write on that envelope first with the client's information. You want to write on that first instead of putting the swabs in and then writing it, because you can poke a hole in the envelope, and the client sees that and they might think, oh, are my DNA samples going to be contaminated? So
Okay.
I did that. I accidentally did that. I poked the hole in the thing. I was, oh shoot. He was like, are my samples going to be contaminated? Because I cannot have that. This must go right. You do understand, do you? And I was just like, oh shit. I was like, hey man, everything's gonna be fine. It's cool, man. Like, I haven't touched the actual swab. It's just a little hole. I'm gonna put it inside of another envelope. We're gonna be good. But long story short, man, he just gave me the heebie-jeebies, man. I was like, yo, I am not doing any type of home test anymore, because that shit was creepy. All right. I was like, I don't know who this dude is connected to. The kid turned out to be, being his. But it's just a weird situation. And one last one was another one of my first calls out in El Paso. And a guy calls me, he's like, hey, I want to get a paternity test. And I was like, okay, cool. He was like, yeah, man. But if I find out, man, that you that you're lying on the results, I'm gonna fuck you up, man. I was like, what? Like,
you
sir,
already kind of know that this is gonna go how you don't want it to go.
I'm gonna fuck you up, man. All right. I was like, hold on now. No. It turns out he wanted a maternity test to see if his mother was his mother. And it was just a lot of back and forth and weird stuff going on. Eventually, his father called me from Mexico and was like, look, I know you want to do that. My son has contacted you about this. My son has a mental illness. He doesn't believe that his mom gave birth to him, all this other stuff. Like, he was like, sir, I would just advise that you don't do this test or whatever. And I was just like, well, it's up to him. You know what I'm saying? If he still wants to do the test. And then the dude called me back and was like, I don't want to do it no more. Never mind. It was just a weird cycle of just all these emotions. But really, honestly, since then, I haven't really had too much. Like, I don't really get into the drama. I answer the clients' questions. I give them what they need. And we go from there. When they get their results, they get their results. I don't call them and say, you are not the father. Like, I don't do that. Like, that's all theatrics on the show, man. That's on Paternity Court. That's on Maury. I just send them their results. However they like them, they like them. Or they don't like them. The DNA is the truth, man. You can't refute that. But other than that, I honestly haven't had like too many wild situations. Luckily, thank God. Some of my students, though, they get calls. It just depends on where you at. They be like, yo, Royal, what am I supposed to do with this? I'm like, I have never heard of something like that before.
So I want to bring it back to some technical real quick. Marketing. Now, you have to kind of know your target demographic, right?
Yep.
And I think that there's a consensus around the particular target demographics that are getting paternity tests. What have you seen in regards to that kind of demographic, or in general, like who gets obviously we know who gets paternity tests, but like I want you to shed some light so there's not a stigma on that around who's getting paternity testing and things like that.
Yeah. It honestly, it depends on where you are at. So what I have learned is that in El Paso, a lot of the people who want paternity tests, a lot of the calls that I get are from women who are currently pregnant and they want to know who the father is. That's what I get in my area. Like maybe 80% of the time. I get calls from men every once in a while, but just in my area, most of the calls I get are from women who want to, like, I'm pregnant, I want to know who the father is, and that's a specific type of test that we offer. And so what I had to learn, and this is months of essentially collecting data, or just not really collecting data on a rudimentary scale. I'm not saying that I have some like platform or anything like that. This is just me receiving calls, and I thought, I'm like, damn, man, there's a lot of women who are pregnant who want. Oh, light bulb thing. All right, create a new marketing campaign that specifically speaks to this demographic. Now, in Atlanta, where my mom owns a paternity testing company, it is all types of folks. It's men that call. It's women that call. It is um, um, wives of deceased men who want to know, who the real father was, but he's deceased. So what do you do? That type of stuff happens in just different places. It's people in Baltimore. It's more people who are really trying to, get in contact with the child support office, but they need a paternity test and they just don't know where to call. So they call, and it's men, it's women, it's all types of folks. It's folks dealing with inheritance issues in California. It's all types of things. But in my area, my demographic is that demographic. That's what I've learned, and I've shifted my digital and actual networking and in-person marketing to attend to that demographic.
Mm-hmm. So in terms of like your marketing actual like campaign, if you will,
Yeah.
Are you heading towards more digital, or are you doing like more networking, organic, word of mouth, the courses? Like, what is your focus?
It is mostly digital at the moment, because people generally just do a Google search and for paternity testing near me, whatever, paternity test El Paso, paternity test Dallas, whatever, and they call. Whoever is the first company they see with multiple 5-star reviews, which is me, they call, right? Now, what I have shifted more towards in my area is doing in-person relationship building, organic. Like I said, I realized there's a demographic that wants a specific type of test. And what I realized is that there are certain nonprofits in my area, and they're all over the country. They're not just in El Paso, they're all over the country, to where they're called pregnancy care centers. And they're nonprofits, and they educate women and expecting fathers too, as well as single fathers, on parenthood, pregnancy, what to expect, prenatal, postnatal, after you're giving birth. They give diapers, they educate them on abortion and things of that nature. So I learned, I never knew about these until about 2 weeks ago. And I was like, wait a minute, this is major. Because I contact them and I'm like, hey, this is a service that I offer. I just want to meet. I had my wife, and I did it one time. My wife went to 2 of them and dropped off donuts and some cards, and we just talked to them in person. Hey, this is a service that we offer. And they're like, we get so many inquiries about this from our clients, our nonprofit clients, but we don't know who to send them to. We, like, for this specific type of test, I charge between $1,400 and $1,600 for that. Okay.
Wow.
And so, yeah, it's a very specific type. It's a prenatal paternity test. That's major. That's not, like I said, that's 90% of my calls that I get from Google. When I realized these pregnancy care centers are out here and all across the country, guess what? I'm networking with them. I tried to network with attorneys. Attorneys don't want to talk to you unless you got a check for them. I'm sorry. That's just normally that's what I've experienced. They're like, huh? Who? No. Like, right. Except for the test that we're doing today. We're doing a test in a couple of hours where it was actually attorney referred. So we're going to be like, hey, who was the attorney that put us on the paperwork? Because I never talked to him. At least I don't think so. Anyway, in-person networking with that specific type of organization, key. Because they were like, oh, we didn't know that anybody did this. So we would just kind of turn folks away. We didn't know. But now that we know you're the only provider of this type of test, basically within a 600-mile radius, we're going to send them all to you. Boom. And that costed me $25 because that cost me 2 dozens of donuts.
Wow. Ooh, I love that. And I love the in-person marketing. The networking is the key, because that's what I've been doing. That's because you're gonna see that all over Twitter. Be blasting you about that networking thing.
Got it. It's important because, like, the thing is that I didn't know that, like, 6 months ago, I'm gonna link this to my course and the students as well. Like I said, I have not completely mastered this business yet. I have not mastered it. However, I'm advanced to know how to start it and then how to scale it. I have a mentor in the business who made almost 400 grand from this business last year. He says he hasn't mastered it. He was like, yo, I just got some Google ads and I answer my phone. Like, and it's just the fact that I've been in business for 4 years. But he learned his market. He specifically learned, and it was only after failing. He set up offices in different cities in different states, and he realized that certain markets have certain demands. That's what this is in this business. You just have to learn. And once he pinpointed, his thing is the prenatal paternity testing too, the pregnancy paternity test. All right. Once he figured that out, boom, drive in on that. Boom. That's exactly what he is doing. I figured it out too. I was like, oh, there we go. I'm the only provider of this for 600 miles, baby. I'm the only one.
You got this.
I'm
So you mentioned that prenatal testing is like $11, $12, $1,300. What are the levels of like DNA testing, and what makes them more expensive or less expensive?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. So it can go anywhere from, at the lowest is an informational paternity test, to where they can't use the results in court. Is solely for peace of mind. It's solely because they want to know. And that's a kit that they either pick up from you in your office, or you send it to, you mail it to them, and they do the swabs themselves and they send it in. Okay. And that's $200 on average, between $200, $250. All right. You can charge that much, and you'll probably make about $100 profit off of that after the expenses. Then it goes up from there. The legal paternity test. All right. That is, they want to use in the court admissible, child custody, adoption, immigrant, whatever. All right. They want to use that in court. That can range between $300 and I've seen it go to $600. Okay. $300 to $600, just depending on your market. It literally just depends on your market. There's not a set price across the whole country. And then the highest, and then you have about a few tests in between. So you have grandparentage, you have genetic reconstruction, you have siblingship, you have avuncular, which is testing if the alleged father is either doesn't want to test, is deceased, can't be found. You can test the alleged father's brother or sister and the child to determine if there's a genetic relationship between those two, because the father's not there. That's called a probability of relationship. I said you have deceased testing as well. An individual may be deceased. My mom, here's the story. My mom does these tests. Okay. So she does these two ways. The deceased test, she does two ways, and she charges a good amount for those. Okay. She charges a good amount for those. She does those two ways. Either the deceased individual is in the morgue or at the funeral home, and she goes to the morgue, goes to the body, and collects DNA samples from their fingernails or plucks some hair. I think they still have a little bit of buccal swab in their cheeks. I don't do those. All right. So she has seen some stuff. Literally, she has seen some stuff.
Yeah, that's gotta be pulling up to the morgue. Like, what are you doing?
She told me the creepiest one that she did. After a while, she got over it. She was like, hey man, they're not alive. I don't have to worry about the dead people bothering me. I got to worry about the live people bothering me, right? That's her thing. And so she said the creepiest one that she did was when apparently she was at the morgue, and it was, I think, a little bit later in the evening or something like that, like almost close to nighttime. And then the morgue technician, or the mortuary technician, was like, all right, here you go. Here's the guy. Go ahead and get your samples. And she was like, okay, when do I? And he was gone. She was like, you're gonna leave me here with this body? So, and she was in there alone getting samples from a deceased individual, which I'm not doing that. Okay. I'm not doing that shit. I'm sorry. I'm not doing that. But the other way to do it is if the deceased individual has already been buried, sometimes the county morgue or the local Bureau of Investigation, like the State Bureau of Investigation, may keep something called a blood card or FTA card on file. And that is that individual's blood sample. And you can ask them, hey, I have this DNA test. The next of kin who has signed the death certificate is requesting a DNA test. I'm coordinating this. I'm going to send you a kit. You're going to take that blood card or that FTA card, send it into the laboratory. I'm going to swab the alive individuals, or the next of kin, or the son or the daughter or whatever. And the lab tests that stuff together. That's the way to do it too. That's another one. Yeah, man. But the highest that people go is the prenatals. The prenatal paternity test. The reason why it's so expensive is because it's an expensive process for the laboratory to separate the fetal DNA from the mother's blood. From the mother's blood. Okay. Quick thing. This is non-invasive prenatal paternity testing, meaning it is simply a blood draw from the mom's arm and a swab from the alleged father's mouth. The other form of it is invasive prenatal paternity testing, where an OBGYN inserts a thicker gauge needle into the woman's belly button to connect to collect amniotic fluid or they insert a catheter into the woman's cervix to collect placental samples. Okay, uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Cheaper, a little bit cheaper, but uncomfortable.
Why is invasive cheaper than non-invasive?
Because that non-invasive, it is a more expensive process for the lab to separate. So they collect the mom's blood, okay, and then they separate the fetal DNA, the baby's DNA, from the mom, okay. And that process for the laboratory is a little bit more extensive. They have to have more advanced machine work to do that. That's why it's a little bit more, as opposed to collecting amniotic fluid or scraping. It's like literally they kind of scrape the placental wall to collect the placental samples. That's a little bit of a less expensive process. But the invasive process has a very small chance, 1% or just under 1% of miscarriage, or having the baby have some form of birth defect, physical birth defect. It's a very small chance. So when, the common injections, if you get calls, oh, why is the prenatal test, why is it $1,400? Was this because of that? The other ones, you're going to call around, they're going to say they can do it, but they can do it for $800. This is what they're going to do. That sounds uncomfortable, doesn't it? Yeah, that does sound uncomfortable. I don't think I want to do that. Okay, well, here we go. And we offer a payment plan on one type. The other one is not a payment plan. That's how you work with people. So that's the highest point right there. Highest point, but the lowest profit margin. The profit margins on the prenatals are around 25 to 30-ish%, depending on how much you charge. But the labs, they charge between $950 and $1,200. They charge us between $950 and $1,200 to process it. That's why we can charge between $1,400, $1,500, $1,800 to do that. So, like I said, I learned all this stuff in the last 16 months, man. Like I learned it, and I figured it out. I figured out my market, and then I target my market, and then I just say to my students, like, my students, this is how you start it. This is how you can scale it to somewhat, but the other part is on you to learn what your market wants. How much are they willing to pay for one? You might be charging $500 for one, and they may not be willing to pay that amount. So you might have to adjust. But we talk about that in the Slack channel. We talk about how to adjust, how to get better month to month, quarter to quarter, how to deal with common objections and all that stuff. So that was kind of it was a ramble. But
we love it. We love it. The ramble. So before we have to get you out of here, because I know you're short on time at this point now, you've learned a lot of things over the past 17 months, if you said. What has been the most key thing that you've learned that you would like to share with founders, other people doing DNA testing in general? What's been like the most key thing that you feel you've learned?
Consistency. Like, I have started businesses before that I gave up on. I'm like, damn, I'm not seeing enough progress. So, I've pivoted before. I pivoted completely to different industries. With this, you have to be consistent. And if you pivot your marketing tactic based on the information that you're receiving. Consistency. This is a business that a lot of millennials and Gen Z do not operate. Okay, so there is literally an opportunity for us to, I'm not going to say take over this industry, but as Gen Xers, as the older generation starts to leave this industry, who's going to pick up the slack? It has to be us. So don't give up. If you're going to start this business and actually operate it, don't give up. I did the math. Like I said, Q1, 2021, first 3 months, January to March 31st, 2021. Guess how much I made from the DNA testing business? Take a guess. Go ahead. Try.
So I remember you had said 3,000 from the time of inception till when your wife came. So by the
Yep.
time that came, I'm going to guess $975.
Less than that, man. Less than that. I made $220. I sold one home paternity test kit in the first 3 months of operating this business. All right. I've had plenty of stories on what to do, what not to do. But I stayed. I was like, I got something. I got something. I know it. Q1, 2022, 17,000. All right. Q1, 2023. I bet you it's going to be about 50 or 60, maybe 100. Who knows? All right. That's what I'm predicting. I'd say at least double. Okay. Exponential growth comes from this consistency, man. Consistency and just taking this business serious. That's the biggest. There's been a couple months. I'm not gonna lie, man. There's been a couple. I was like, bro, that notary business sounds great. I could do that. I could add that on. Oh man, right. Drug testing, which you can't. You know, a lot of DNA testing companies they offer drug testing too. Primarily, they do drug testing, but they offer DNA testing on the side. So therefore, they don't take their DNA testing stuff that seriously. And the people who only focus on DNA testing, like me and my students, come and eat their lunch. All right. I thought about it. Man, I could start a cleaning business. No, Royal. Stick to what you started. Stick to it. Stick to it. Because there's gold at the end of that mine, man. I know y'all probably heard the story of the dude, mining for diamonds or something like that, or mining for gold or whatever. And he gave up, and left. And then some other guy came and hit that maybe a little bit right to that spot. Boom, struck gold. Bam. I'm not giving up on this, man. This is something I know for a fact. My mom has done this business for 20 years, man. She does not have a VA. She answers all her own calls and does all her own tests. And we have me and my wife have gotten to the point where we're making the same amount of money we are. She's been doing it for 20 years. We've been doing it for 17 months. And we have systems in place ready so that when my wife goes back to work, we can outsource a lot of stuff and scale it exponentially across the United States. All right. So then what? That. You know what I mean?
Listen, when y'all ready, hit me up. I'll give y'all 30 days free. You and your mom. Just keep me posted on that.
Yeah, I want to get mom on board too. I'm telling mom, I'm like, look, mom, you want, you know what I'm saying? You want to step back a little bit. My mom, like I don't mean to talk too much longer, but my mom has gotten to the point now where she has systems in place to where she can go on a vacation and she knows who to come. She can outsource it. She can outsource her test and have other people answer her calls and stuff like that. She was on a beach in Miami last year, chilling, and made a couple $1,000s. Like, oh, this is cool, But it was because of the conversations that I had with her. Like, mom, you know what I'm saying? You don't want to be going into your 60s or 70 years old unless you want to, and that's what keeps you busy and keeps you motivated. Cool. If you don't want to do that and you want to just kind of chill, let's start the systems to kind of have you step away fire yourself, step away. But that's what we're on. Like, look, like I said, when my wife, once she starts working or getting back to work, we already got the SOPs built, turning on the VA, and they have to be bilingual. By the way, they got to be bilingual. Just letting you know.
We have English, Spanish, I think Portuguese, whatever they speak over there in Philippines, and
Tagalog.
And 2 people in Nigeria, and obviously we got some people. I got 2 people in Texas too. So
we'll talk.
But officially, before we get you out, because I know you have to go, I don't want to take up too much more of your time. Yeah. Where can we find you on social media? What's your website? Shameless plug yourself.
Yeah, man, absolutely. I'm most active on Twitter. I am at Royal Skegee, ROYALSKEGEE for my alma mater, Tuskegee University. That's where I'm most active. If you are a listener and you know somebody or you yourself are in need of a paternity test, go to assurancedna.com, ASSURANCE DNA.com. No matter where you are in the United States, we can help you. It doesn't matter if you're outside of El Paso or not. We can help you. If you're looking to start a paternity testing company, you're looking into this field, you're like, man, I like what Ro was talking about, man. I know some people that need some paternity tests out here, and I know I can make a solid living from that. Go to paternityuniversity.com. You can get the course. My students say that it actually needs to be priced way higher than what I have it at right now. So look, y'all getting it at a steal for this moment, at this point in time right now. Or just follow me on Twitter. I'm always talking about it. Go to paternityuniversity.com. That's what I got, man. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for joining us today, Royal. It's been absolutely amazing. Don't forget, you guys can always go follow him. He's going to send me the stuff. The links are going to be directly in the description. We'll see you next time. Happy rambling. Hey, Ramblers. That's it. Podcast is over. Don't leave yet, though. If you enjoyed today's episode, make sure to like, share, and subscribe to the podcast, and follow us on YouTube at OffSource HQ. We'll see you next time.